Okay, Roshni, hi. So you're at the stop sign. You can choose to go left or right. So what are you going to decide?
Hi, Diane. So nice to see you at the stop sign. I'm not actually sure. Are we talking about a reset today?
Yeah, that's what a stop sign represents.
So, hello, listeners. Welcome to episode 4 of DragonFly Vibe podcast, and lovely sharing this talk with you today. Diane thought we'll do something slightly different, and it's not so different because actually this has shown up in my space in the last 2 weeks. And I kept finding myself saying, I can't carry on like this. And I asked myself 2 days ago, what am I actually trying to say? And it's nothing bad, it's nothing too dramatic. But all my life, I think I've been a bit of a workaholic. So, my 100% focus and actually my passion is in the work I do. And then life happens. And in the last 2 weeks since our last podcast, life has really happened. And I find that sometimes, you need to focus on other things that are equally important. And I find myself getting irritated that those things showed up. And what I was saying to you this morning is that I need to do something differently. And I can't quite figure out if it's about doing something differently or becoming someone different.
Well, if you look at this reset and how we manifest, whether we're conscious or not, everybody has actually asked for this on some level. Because when there's a mass accumulation of the same thing, everybody's unhappy with the earth, the planet, where we are in life. Some want to make more money. Some don't like their home. Some need to lose weight. Some need to change their job. Some want a child. Some want to get out of a marriage. Some want a new marriage or a new relationship. So everybody has asked for this stopping point, this stop sign. Because something in their life, if they actually are honest and they dig deep, they will see something on some level doesn't sit right, and they needed something to stop. So actually everybody on this planet has actually asked for this reset. It just is different for everybody. So the stop sign is to make you conscious, to bring up that awareness of what are we changing, what have we liked, what have we not liked in our lives on the earth, on the planet. Is it nature related? Is it spiritual? Is it work? Is it financial? Is it health? So there might be more than one thing, but one thing is for sure. Everybody has requested this stopping point, this changeover.
Absolutely, Diane. And as much as we think that life happens to us, i.e., the victim consciousness, or that life happens because of us, sometimes we've got to realize that what our mind is thinking manifests into the physical reality. So it's interesting that you're saying that we asked for this pause and stop to happen. So we can call it COVID-19, we can look at how governments have handled these things, etc. But what you're saying is really, really interesting. So 7 billion people on Earth somehow subconsciously came to a point where they said, enough, something needs to change and it needs to be different.
Absolutely. So you are creating all the time, whether you're conscious of it or whether you are unconscious. But your mind is on a play, on a roll, and the thoughts and the intent is going on round and round. If you're not conscious of what your mind is doing, it's going to be playing out a scene over and over again, or more than one scene. And whatever you pay attention to, energy follows intent. So whatever that intention is, whether it's conscious or unconscious, is going to have power. I've used the term, imagine looking down a pipe, and at the end of the pipe, that is what your focal point is. That is what you're paying attention to. Now, if you're conscious of it and you are setting that up every day of whatever you're focusing on, energy follows intent. It's going to manifest. You're going to meander through life towards that point. The systems, the lessons, whatever you need to have, the tools to get to that point are going to play out. Why? Because you're making and creating that all the time. It's becoming more physical. And the same applies to the lack thereof. So whatever you're paying attention to that you're not aware that you're paying attention to is also manifesting. So I don't like my sister, or my life is forever in withheld stuff, or my life is always in a lack. Okay, nothing is ever going right for me. Oh, my body is always in pain. I just struggle every day, every month. That continual play out in your mind is a recreation. So you are creating that daily. Again, energy follows intent. So what are you building? What house, what platform, what stage are you building daily? So that is a step in the awareness, is look at what the external view is. What is the world showing you? Well, then you know what's going on in the mind.
So Diane, just listening to what you're saying, the stories that are playing out in your mind, or the dialogue or the narrative that's playing out in your mind, manifests in your reality. It might not be immediately, it might not be tomorrow, but if you join the dots over a period of time, you know, I'm a big believer, and maybe this is why I qualified as an accountant, because I take full accountability and responsibility for every action, every decision I make, every decision I don't make. And so sometimes, of course, I'm hard on myself from that perspective, but it's only because I realize that very early on in my life, I realized that you have the power to be quite mindful and intentional, to use your word, about what it is you want to play out in your reality. So going back to your principle of this reset or reboot, if we think of when we're watching TV and something happens to our signal, you see it going all scrambled and you see the fuzzy picture. It takes a few seconds or maybe a few minutes to reset itself, and then you'll see the clearer picture again, right? But in the background, what we don't see happening in the digital space is that it's trying to almost defrag itself and reconnect in an optimal way. And so if we want to change our reality, that pause or that stop that you used as an analogy is an excellent time to just check in with yourself, saying, hey, what is my narrative? So Diane, if we consider this transition period we're in as a reset, as a reboot, it's hell of a daunting to become someone different to who you are today. Talk to us about the role and the significance of choosing your identity.
Well, sometimes we have to know where we've come from. I used this example actually this week. I was having a conversation with somebody, and she was explaining to me a situation. She couldn't get somebody to do something that she'd asked for. So I'd asked her, well, do you like the road that you're on? What has been the outcome in the past? So she sat there for a minute and she said, A, B, C, D, these are the things that happened. And I said, okay, so was the outcome the same as it is now? So she said, yes. I said, well, I see a split in the road. My question to you is, why are you walking down the path that you know the outcome? If it's the outcome you don't want. I don't know, was her answer. So I said, well, I see another option. And she was trying to figure out, is she walking down that road because it's familiar? She knows it. Is she afraid to try something new? She was trying to figure that out. And then I asked her, well, what road would she like to be on? And she had no idea. Because all she's been doing is paying attention to the road that she was on. So I said, well, that's the road, you know, that's the road you're walking on. So you're going to feed that energy into the same path. So you have to be conscious and ask yourself, do I want to walk the road that I know? That's called familiarity. That is called comfortable. And again, we've used this before, is to get out of our comfort zone and to get maybe on another road. Again, it goes back to intention. It goes back to being okay with being in uncomfortable situations, because with resistance we grow. And it goes back to choice. Do you want to be that same person? Do you want to have the same outcomes? Do you like the play or the road that you've been on? There may be some things you have liked on that path, but you've outgrown them now. So that will not benefit you anymore. And that is the point, that stop sign that we're at, is to give us a little bit of time to assess these things and slow down a bit and ask ourselves these very important questions. Well, where have I come from? Where do I want to go? How do I get there? And what do I need to know? So with that stopping point, that junction, it's an incredibly powerful point to be in, because you can set a goal. And remember, if you have a goal, energy follows intent. You may not know the road, and you may not need to know the road, how to get there. The first step is actually just having the goal point, being willing.
That's so important, because if you continue with your analogy of the journey or driving, it's seldom that you drive without a purpose or without a destination to get to. You can do that, but even then, even if you're going for a Sunday afternoon cruise, you're doing it for a purpose of enjoyment. So when setting goals, i.e., you've come to a point of realization now that, like I did, hey, something needs to change. That change needs to start happening in your mind and in your being first, before you see it in your outer world. And often what I find is that which we are today is not always a product of your own intentions. Often it's influenced by parents, by partners, by business colleagues, by your society, your community, what you watch in the media, etc. Diane, with such an abundance of information and influences at the moment, how do we best serve ourselves by finding an identity and moving down a path that takes us closer to our own truth?
Well, what you just said, when all these external influences influence us on a level that is still giving away your power, because whatever they have offered you, you've either accepted or denied. So even the television, whatever you're watching, you're giving away your power to that knowledge. So one has to know that you are powerful first and foremost in everything, in your choice of what you read, in your choice of what you consume with company. So everything that you are exposing yourself to is choice. Some people will say, well, I'm in a workplace and I have a difficult colleague or a difficult boss. And I would say, yes. So on a level, you've chosen that also. Question why. What are they bringing up for you? Because everything has a meaning, a crossing point. So they may have triggered your feeling of insecurity, a colleague. They've done a degree or they've had a family and you haven't done either. So your insecurity comes up. So that's a good stopping point to assess why are you allowing yourself to be measured by somebody else's achievements or lack of achievements. Okay. So one has to start accepting oneself. One has to know that you have power. You've all come from a different point and on a different road. You can never assess yourself to somebody else. And it's to be okay with that. It's to be okay with who and what you are according to the roads and the paths you've been on. And it doesn't just mean this lifetime. Some people aren't comfortable with that. But your soul experience brings you to a defined energy, a frequency. And that frequency is never the same as somebody else's. And you can never measure yourself against somebody else. Or don't allow somebody else to measure you. You're never more than or less than somebody else as a divine being. Okay. So when you're wanting to know yourself, you've got to go back to that analogy and write down what do you stand. We've used the word for, but today I said to you, use the word in. What do I stand in? Because when you're in the energy, you hold the energy. When you hold the energy, you own it, which means you will automatically be it. So go and write down what you are prepared to stand in. So I'll just give you one example I wrote down this morning, and it becomes quite complex with layers and levels. Because if you use a word for example, I stand in truth, or I stand in love. Well, what type of love do you stand in? So I've put in here, I stand in abundance in love for all things and self. So I become more specific. Because when you're tuning in that dial, when you're tuning in that frequency to specifics, you are having a specific goal. And again, energy follows intention.
There's so much, Diane, in what you're saying. And from an intention perspective and a goal setting perspective, it's about what is the outcome that you are seeking. And I have asked myself this question quite often because, you know, I'm one of those people who wants to see tangible evidence of my self-development. And I've come to terms with the fact that it's about really becoming the best version of yourself that you could be. And interestingly, I had a business owner coming to me a week ago and just saying, you know, they're doing all the right things. They're putting in the hard work, they're putting the hours, they're doing the marketing, they're treating their customers well, they're treating their employees well. Why are things not coming together? And what I found myself saying to the person, that a human is a paradox. As much as we want variety and change, we also are daunted by uncertainty. So we land up making choices that actually perpetuate the patterns that we are familiar with. And it's an element of control, because with every change, whether you make it in your business, in your personal lives, in your family, in what you choose to eat, for example, in every change, there's the aspect of vulnerability. And we're often not comfortable with the vulnerability that that change brings. So, for example, for myself, I can share that pauses for me are in themselves daunting because I keep feeling like I've got to be doing something or being active. And sometimes it's in that moment of silence that the magic happens. Diane, I mean, what has your experience been in that regard from a spiritual perspective?
Well, going back to this person that has said to you, they've done everything, they've done all the right things. If you actually ask them a question, and that would be a lovely example to bring somebody on board and say, okay, let's do a demonstration. If you ask them a question, so what is going on inside? So yes, you're doing all the external right things, but what are you doing wrong on the inside? What are you feeling about yourself? What are you sensing about yourself? Are you feeling doubtful? Are you doing enough? Well, am I good enough? Have I tried enough? So if you look at the energy, I can immediately feel that energy is holding abundance and flow back. Because as I'm saying it, I can feel that that would restrict the energy from bringing that fruition into manifestation. So we need to go back to that person and actually ask them, so what is the resistance and the block within them? And there will be something. And they're just not conscious of it. And I can tell you, it's probably something they've done over many, many, many times in their life. Okay? And it's not going to shift until they shift that within themselves.
Diane, that's amazing. So I've often heard the term around emotions being linked to energy in motion. And by the description and the overview you've just given, the pennies actually drop. That's exactly it. That in order to change something on the outside, it's about what you are thinking, but most importantly, how you are feeling. So for example, if you want to be a happier person, think happier thoughts, and immediately by thinking that, you'll feel that. So you become that. I might be sounding a little bit confusing to those listening to us out there.
Can I butt in
Yeah,
here?
absolutely.
Because
please.
remember, your thoughts affect your emotions and your emotions affect your body. Okay, so you've got to remember that whatever you're thinking is going to affect your emotions, and your emotions have power, so do your thoughts. And the last manifestation is in the physical.
Diane, so where we are right now, sure, but we're going into May already, can you believe? So 5th month of the year, and 5 for me is change. It just has always symbolized change for me. We are all looking ahead to 2025, 2030 in our own 3, 5, 10-year plans. And there's a lot of information out there at the moment. And there's no point of certainty, i.e., I keep thinking about these young people who are at school and almost ending their schooling career, or the university students who are coming into the job market soon. How comfortable are they that what they've studied, the efforts they've put in is going to be relevant in this new world? That's one example. To the others who are at the tail end of their lives or nearing retirement, they also don't quite know what's going to be playing out. For parents who are bringing children up, how do you guide those children into an uncertain reality? Diane, can you share with us from your perspective, how should we start thinking about this reboot phase, i.e., how do we even embark on this process of getting closer to what I call our truth or our purpose?
Well, one thing is for sure, nobody can give you a guarantee of what tomorrow or the next day is going to bring. Because if we go back to the stop sign, and that everybody's manifested this stopping point, this changeover, well, what are people creating? What are they rebooting into? Some will try and go down the same road because that's what they know. But the most important thing is to know what your energy does. When you're in a specific point or place, feel, just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's right. Feel how you feel when you've left. Feel how you feel when you've arrived. So if you arrive at a meeting, feel what is going on within you. Does it feel comfortable? Does it feel that something is off-putting? Someone is making you uncomfortable or distracting you? So these are all measuring sticks. We tend to do that from a soul perspective. We put up tests for ourselves to see how much we've grown and what we've learned. But we're not taught this. So we're not always conscious it's actually happening until you realize, wow, this is a test point. So again, we add a test point to see, where do we want to go as a species, as a humanity? Well, what do we want to create for the future, for the children of the future of this planet? What type of world do we want to have? Clearly not the one we're on. So if we know that we are in a very powerful place, it is the responsibility of ourselves to actually sit down and become a co-creator with others. So yes, you can define your personal path you want to take. And we'll do a visualization on that one. But as a whole, as a whole human race, as a species on this planet, well, where do we want to see this planet go? We cannot look at this as a singular. We've got to look at this as a global, as a united manifestation. Because again, energy follows intent, and the more that have the same idea are going to actually have the more power over which direction, which road it's going to go down. So everybody's been given the opportunity to do this assessment, this reset. But how many people are actually responsible? So yes, we are responsible for our own energy. Okay, that is the most important thing, is to learn how to be responsible for your own energy. What are you putting out there? I'll give an example. Let's take Mr. A. Okay, he walks into a room and he just has the energy of playing with people. So he goes around and just throws bits of himself and his energy out there. Throws comments out there, makes stupid comments to get reactions out of people. Okay. So his input into the earth or to the planet or to the environment he's in can be destructive. Okay. So if you know yourself, you know you don't want to be in that space. If you are forced in that space because of work environment, well, you can learn how to manage your own energy. That energy doesn't impact on you anymore. That's your responsibility. So we all have a responsibility to ourselves, our own energy, and what we allow and what we don't allow.
Diane, I think today there's just this conversation is just so rich and there's a lot to unpack here. So perhaps we'll pause there. And what's striking me most about what's come out of our chat today is that one needs to own your emotions, own your responses to things. And perhaps that's where the change starts. So you suggested that you're going to leave us with a visualization, and I'm super keen to hear what that is. Take us through it, Diane.
Okay. So if you imagine a tunnel, you can imagine the tunnel in any creative form you like. Make it your own, because then it becomes more real. But before you go in the tunnel, have an intention. I want to release a block. I want to heal a wound. I want to achieve a goal. It doesn't matter what the goal or the motive or the end result is. Just have an intention before you go in. Then I want you to visualize this tunnel. It can be like a water slide. It can be a roller coaster. And just let it follow and flow with the energy. And when you release your mind and don't try and have a solid outcome, in other words, don't try and make it do something. Just let it flow. And let the mind go where it needs to go. It'll take you to a point or some place where that block, that pain, that outcome that you're wanting will be released. Because as you set an intent, energy follows. It may not be today. It may be you wake up one morning and realize, this is what I've got to do. This is who I've got to say sorry to. That's what I've got to go and make. It'll just be something deep within you that gets released, healed, or epiphany. And when you've done that, you realize that you have a sense of power over allowing certain things to flow. But the most important thing is have the intent before you go into a tunnel that you want a specific shift or a specific healing or a specific growth for whatever is holding you back. And make sure you say, what holds me back in life? Because you may not have the conscious awareness of what it is, but your deep subconscious mind, deep in your soul, you have that answer. But you've got to give it permission.
Diane, thank you so very much. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us today. If you feel that you've reached a choice point in your life, in your business, in your circumstances, then I hope that today's talk has given you something to work on for the month of May. And as Diane said, this doesn't happen overnight. And I guess it's going to be difficult, right? In the first few times you try it. And also one tends to hold on to the familiarity. So give yourself permission and actually apply the courage to go down the road less traveled. And you may find things there that you like. You might find things there that really make you stop and think. And perhaps that pause, that reflection is absolutely necessary to make sure that your reprogramming, your recalibration, the new you, the new path of life that you want to unlock becomes that much more different, that much more enjoyable, and that much more fulfilling. So till the next time, take care, and we look forward to connecting with you again. Bye-bye.
Bye.